Laisawala now. My name is Yash Laisawala and I'll be your host for today. Thank you for joining us today again for the second session of the Climate Governance and Global Commons workshop, held by SPIL Mumbai in collaboration with EnviPol. Participants, a few pointers to keep in mind before we begin. We request all of you all to switch on your cameras and keep your videos on for the duration of the session. However, please mute your microphones when you're not speaking. Secondly, seeing that this is an interactive workshop, we encourage all participants to ask questions and pitch in with their ideas whenever they feel they can weigh in. Lastly, certificates shall be awarded to participants who have taken part in both sessions. Further, we also request all participants to log into the meeting with their full name. Now, I would like to hand over the floor to Mr. Arpit Chaturvedi. He is the co-founder and CEO of Global Policy Insights. He is also a lecturer at the San Francisco State University, where he teaches comparative perspectives in public service to graduate students. A graduate of the Cornell Institute for Public Affairs, Arpit holds an MPA degree with a focus on governance, politics, and policy studies. Further, he is the author of the book Our Egalitarian Universe and has various publications in multiple prestigious journals on the themes of democracy, governance, systems thinking, game theory, history, and politics. Arpit, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yash. It is such a pleasure talking to folks from GLC and other colleges. So thanks for SPIL to organize this event. I'm really glad to be talking about this particular course, this particular subject that's close to my heart, and that's called game theory. How many of us have heard about this concept called game theory, or this whole academic discipline called game theory? Are most of us in the room lawyers over here, or studying law in general?
I think most of us are students.
Yeah, students of law, is it?
Yeah.
So do you know how to raise your hands over here? You go to reactions and then you can raise your hand. So just by a show of hands, how many of you have had any exposure with game theory as a concept? And it's when I mean any exposure, I'm not going to quiz you on whether you've had exposure. So define game theory for me, or define what a Nash equilibrium is. How many of you have just heard about this term called game theory in the passing as well? Okay, 2 participants. All right. Aparna and I don't know who's the second one. Okay, so all right. Yash, Aparna, cool. So see, guys, game theory is not something which is super complicated. I am myself not a mathematics person. There's a bit of numbers that you need to deal with in game theory. But game theory essentially is this whole study of understanding people's incentives and why people behave the way that they behave. It's not about psychology. It's not really about the behavioral economic stuff that I'm sure some of you must have been exposed to. It's about a very raw and fundamental analysis of how human beings make cost-benefit calculations while taking certain actions. So typically, the way that we take this workshop forward is that we try to understand the whole purpose of this workshop is, if there's an underlying theme, the theme is that there are a number of policies which are only good on paper. They're as good as ink on paper, and not many of them are implemented on the ground. And when they're not implemented on the ground, we typically say, and you must have heard phrases or people saying things like, we have very good laws in India, or we have very well drafted policies in India, but the implementation is problematic. The implementation, is something that we don't see on the ground. I can give you some examples, and I'd like you to unmute yourself and talk about a few examples of laws or policies which you think are very good on paper, but they are seldom implemented on ground. So I can talk about a number of things, such as, the National Green Tribunal has said that, and now even the Supreme Court has said that within 100 kilometer radius of the Taj Mahal in Agra, you would not have any air polluting industries, because Taj Mahal gets sulfurified. It's a white marble structure and it turns yellowish because of all of those things. Yes, Taj trapezium zone, Nikunj, absolutely. But all you need to do, if you ever visit Delhi the next time, and if you're going towards Agra, you have this whole Yamuna Expressway over there, and you will see brick factories, which are called brick kilns, just throwing up so much smoke in the air and well within a 100-kilometer radius of the Taj Mahal, right? Similarly, and I know this very well because my hometown is a place called Firozabad, which is known for its glass manufacturing, bangles and flower vases and things like that. And that's very close to the Taj Mahal. So another thing is that NGT again and a number of state governments, the Ganga, Yamuna boards, etc., they have clearly laid out policies and laws that spreading waste into these rivers, or industries just dumping chemical waste into these rivers without their treatment, is something that's illegal. And still you see leather tanneries or other sorts of all sorts of industries just throwing untreated chemical waste into these rivers. So why is it happening that despite laws being in place, you don't see compliance towards those laws? So my question is to you, and you can probably unmute yourself. I will probably take about 3 responses. So you could unmute yourself, and either you can respond to my question that why do you think some of these laws or policies are not implemented on the ground, or you could give me an example of a law or policy which is good on paper but it's not implemented on ground. So anybody who can raise their hand, then they can talk about it. Could be anything. Yes, Tushar, go ahead.
Sir, I think it's mostly because of the loopholes present in that laws.
Can you be a little louder and close to the mic, Tushar?
Sir, I think it's because of the loopholes present in the laws.
Okay. So you're saying that in these laws, they leave out some definitions here and there, which might say that this is chemical waste, that is not chemical waste, and that's how you might be able to just flout them. Okay, that's an interesting perspective. Nikunj?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Actually, there is no alternative to the things that are not allowed. For example, if there is no alternative to disposal, where should they dispose all the waste that they create?
Yeah, like kya karega wo? What is that person going to do if that person is not going to dispose it into the Yamuna or the Ganga? Then where the hell is that person going to go with all of that waste? They're not going to dump it in their own house, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Okay. Ved Kumar is saying administration failure and corruption. Okay, we'll take one from Princey. Princey, over to you.
Good evening, sir. In the month of March, I was working with an NGO and I had to do a survey about how plastic waste can be managed, etc.
Amazing.
So on their website, on the BMC's website, I'm from Bombay. So on BMC's website, there were a lot of procedures where they go through, they treat the plastic in one of the dumping grounds, etc. So in my local ward office, when I had gone to take the interview of an officer, he said, and I told him the real life perspective, saying that earlier before COVID, we had dry waste, wet waste segregation, but now nobody cares about that. And, nobody cares about people who are picking garbage, etc. So what are you all doing as a ward officer? How can...
While on paper, you have to have the segregation in place.
Right. So when I was taking the interview, his answer was that now because of COVID, plastic is one thing that can protect the people and everything. And my questions were not related. I mean, like the gloves were supposed to be plastic because COVID doesn't spread through that, or the
Okay.
PPE is made of plastic because etc. reasons. And my questions were not related to that. My questions were, how are we treating plastic,
Exactly.
whether or not we're using it? So that was my kind of experience.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's because that particular person does not really have an answer to your question, and that's the reason why they are probably deflecting your question with answering something else. That's typical. Okay, so Aparna is also saying lack of responsibility in people with respect to the environment. I think that's a very important point, and we're going to be talking about that. But how many of you really feel that by just telling people that this is your responsibility, this is what you should do, by just telling them, you can change their behavior? I doubt we can do that. I doubt, I think there is a lot of scope for giving information to people. There is a huge scope of educating people and expecting them to change their behaviors. I think that's what we are trying to do over here. But I think there is a limit to which you can just pass on information and expect people to change their behaviors. How many of you, I'm asking especially the girls in the room, how many of you have asked your dads and your brothers to stop littering on the street at some point of time in their lives? I don't know, with me and my family, it's typically the girls in the family who taught us not to do that, right? So my wife, who was also my friend in my undergrad, she taught me how to do that, really. My sister taught my dad. Yeah, we have about at least 5 people. How many guys amongst the guys who taught folks? Okay. Yeah, probably just Yash. 2. Now, again, 3, 4. Nice. Yeah, you're definitely a lot more woke than we were 10 years ago. So, no, that's a great thing. And there, I suspect you may have seen some changes in their behaviors, in your family members' behaviors. At least gradually over the years, after you've nagged them over and over, you must have seen that, okay, they have stopped littering the streets. They are probably, keeping the waste chocolate bags, the waste chocolate plastic packages, etc., in the pockets of the car, or in a separate container on the bike, and then throwing them when they find a dustbin or something like that. So I'm not saying that education cannot bring about any change. I think it can. But think about some of these things, that why does it happen that we would litter when we are here in India? And let's say if you travel abroad, you travel to places which are already clean, you don't litter over there. You just don't do it. Why? Any answer to this question? The reason why I'm asking you these questions is because we will understand game theory better if we are thinking about these questions. So, okay, so Mannat is saying that there's no rigorous fines in India. Ved Kumar is saying that there's no awareness.
Actually, there are rigorous fines, they're just not implemented.
Brilliant. Yes, there are rigorous fines. They're not implemented because the police also has a capacity to implement, right? And also the police themselves need to have the right incentives to go out and implement certain things. There are certain things that the police implements with a lot more enthusiasm, such as breaking road laws, or breaking traffic laws, than implementing some of these things. Ayush, you have to say something?
Yes, sir. Sir, the 2 things are there which are most important. Firstly is literacy. And sometimes the government usually asks the people to follow, but they don't follow unless strict policies, unless they cover, like the example for sir, in Delhi, sir, police were always asking before it was a before once upon a time, sir, police were all every time asking the people to wear helmets. So people usually don't follow it, but once the fine has been imposed on the people, then they try to follow it. So unless government is not strict on people, or they do not follow strict policies, the people are not going to follow it unless if they know the
so you're saying the
bad-
government is not strict enough. Again, you know, the
Yes.
same thing, that people, the enforcers are not strict enough to do that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, why are the enforcers not strict enough? Think about it. We'll come to this. Think about it. Because a lot of times when we are drafting laws, when we are drafting policies, we think about enforcers of the policies as mere automatons, as mere machines, that they are not human beings. They don't have incentives of their own. They can never be corrupted, but they will enforce things just as the law asks them to. But it doesn't work out like that. They're also human beings, right?
Similarly, in my college also, they have that like the UP government has opened all the colleges and everything, and the college has also released their SOP that they will follow all level of restrictions. And but when my seniors went to college, then they are not following it. So basically there is a, I think so, government, it will take a means, it will take hard work, it will determination from government, and they are not doing it.
So you're saying that it's the lack of will. It's about the lack of will of the government. And I hear this argument a lot, and I can tell you,
it's only called
I
corruption,
partially
sir.
disagree, and to a great extent I disagree with the lack of will argument.
So
I'll tell you why. Yes, Yash.
So I have something a bit controversial to add,
Go ahead.
but it's my take on it, and it's a lot to do with the corruption in the sense that it's not a lack of will, but the enforcers merely see it as an opportunity to probably, because I actually have experienced this myself with certain, like I've seen things, I've gone through things, and they feel they're better off at taking the money for themselves at a lower amount rather than like writing an official chitti, as they put it.
Yeah.
And that's also mainly because of lack of pay for the people who are meant to be enforcing this sort of rule.
Okay. So you're saying, okay, that's another argument that you typically hear, that it's not lack of will, it's also lack of pay. Okay, that's probably a slightly more evolved argument, but let's hear from Aparna, then Shreya, then Nikunj again.
Good afternoon, sir.
You can just call me Arpit, guys. You don't need to do sir and all of that. Yeah.
So I would like to say that you can't really blame the authority and the government all the time.
Okay.
Everyone has a collective cumulative responsibility towards environment. We tend to think that, okay, why should I do this? Why should I be taking initiative when government is there? But we have to think about it in a way that it is individual responsibility, and that individual responsibility in turn cumulates to a whole responsibility of the nation.
Aparna, you're very close to the answer that I have in mind. You're very close to that. Okay. No, thank you. I think that makes a lot of sense. So let's bring in Nikunj.
Yes, sir. I would like to bring the focus towards a different angle that Yash just mentioned. There is corruption, no doubt about that. But let's see it from a different angle. Why the enforcers are reluctant to enforce these laws? First of all, if you see, they are strict about the traffic laws because they know the immediate damage that would occur. So they see in day-to-day lives, they see many accidents, and that is the reason they are more, more bent towards enforcing those laws. Whereas when we litter or we, harm the environment, the police personals or the enforcers do not see an immediate damage done to the environment. It means they do not see any logic in that.
Okay,
that-
so you're also saying that it's an awareness issue on part of the government. So if you just train them enough, if you tell them how important it is, they might start implementing the law or
actually they
enforcing.
know, sir. Actually, they know all the details about environmental awareness. But I am of the view that they are not. They do not think of it as an immediate damage. That is
Okay.
okay. So that
Okay, no, that completely makes sense. So they think that, you know, in the long run, maybe it may be a problem, but then that little incremental damage that happens on a day-to-day basis is not something that they're able to aggregate in their minds.
yes, exactly my point, sir. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Shreya?
Okay, so I remember reading a news article about the Delhi pollution and how like the farmers from Punjab and Haryana, they used to burn stubble.
Burn stubble.
Yes, and that was what caused this, flow of gas to Delhi. But the thing is, for the farmers, they can't really afford another alternate mechanism to do away with that stubble. And the government is not really providing any alternative to these
So
people.
you're saying that if we put just enough dustbins around,
No, there was like some factory for like the specific purpose of that stubble disposal. So the thing is, people of course need to be aware, but the government also needs to like
provide facilities so that they can. So in terms of littering, if you apply the same logic to littering, your recommendation would be that have enough dustbins around and people will start using them.
Yes, and also at the same time, like the people should be aware so that they put pressure on the government to sort of take this seriously.
Okay, so again, awareness and resources.
Yes.
These are the two things that we hear about typically. No, it could be awareness of people, awareness of police, resources from the government, resources of the people, etc., etc.
Sir,
yes, sorry, who's that?
Sir, one thing which we have been talked about, that people are not getting their salary. So relating to, sir, one example I've given, sir, in COVID time, the online education has become the most important part for every colleges, and basically in government colleges, mostly the teachers, when coming to teacher salary, then they have been paid the whole salary has been paid, and but the cut has been down to that the online education, they were not providing us a good quality of online education. Means they are bunking the classes, they are not so basically they are saying that online education, the quality of education cannot come when it comes to online learning, the quality of education becomes slow. So basically I have the argument that they are hiding themselves, that they are hiding it. They, after getting the whole salary, why they are not teaching? After
okay, so they're not being honest. There's a bit of a moral corruption over there.
Yeah.
So again, that comes to the lack of will, and that's a combination of the lack of will and the lack of resources argument again. Okay,
Sir,
I want to give a big congrats to Bhagyesh, who has touched upon a very important point, and I'm going to build from there. Okay, so Bhagyesh is saying, if we ask most of the people to save environment, they just point fingers to others and the government, and they say that if others don't do it, why should I? Okay, there is a great amount of wisdom in this. So think about the fact that when you are here, this is how, you know, the mental calculations work. When you're here in a country like ours, you see others littering, you don't think that it's a problem to litter yourself. And you would not stop littering because you would think that you will not make any serious change in the environment if you yourself stop littering. So why should you pay the cost of holding on to your plastic for a longer period of time when others are just free riding, right? Others are littering, so I will litter. And everyone is thinking like that, right? So I will not, you know, bear that cost because I think that the others will not bear that cost. And since the others are also thinking like me, that litter will always be there. That's one equilibrium that we are stuck in. Okay, think about it, and I'm going to start building about game theory over here. You're in a good city. Let's say you're in a place where people don't litter. You don't litter over there because you think, or especially the reason why you don't litter abroad is not always because you think that you'll get a lot of fine and you'll get a lot of punishment. That's certainly a case, and that's important. But also because you see that others are not littering. Right? So if others are littering, then there will be litter. If others are not littering, there will not be litter. But the other is also an individual, and they're also thinking in the same way. Isn't that interesting? Think about other examples like punctuality. No, I went to Cornell in the US to study my master's program. I was always punctual. Okay. Before going to Cornell, I used to get late 5-10 minutes, 15 minutes late in India is not considered late at all. Okay, so I was always late in my classes, etc. in India. I went to Cornell, I was always punctual. I came back over here, I started going late to office again. Why? Because there I know that everyone is going to be punctual, so I am punctual. Here I know that everybody is not going to be punctual, so I will not be punctual myself. So in a way that there are these societies which are stuck in various different equilibriums, that everyone does something because others are doing the same thing. And it is not because we are copying the others. No, it is because of some cost benefit analysis that goes on in our mind. So in India, if you are in any society where everybody is unpunctual, then it pays you to be unpunctual. If you are a punctual person in an unpunctual society, you are the person who's paying the cost all the time, right? Because if you're a punctual person in an unpunctual society, the meeting is at 5 p.m. You reach there at 5 p.m. The others reach at 5:15. You've paid that cost of 15 minutes, right? So if you're a rational calculator, if you're a rational person, then you will also start gradually reach at 5:15. Okay. And then 5 o'clock would start meaning 5:15. Then for some people it'll mean 5:20. For some people it'll mean 5:30. And you will not be able to coordinate it. Also, no meeting starts in time. But it harms you to be non-punctual in a punctual society. So let's say you're in a society where everybody is punctual. The meeting at 5 starts at 5, and you, let's say, come at 5:15, you've missed out on 15 minutes of the meeting, right? So in a way, if you're, just intuitively understanding, I'll give you the formal models of it, but in a way, if you're intuitively understanding, these societies are stuck in equilibrium, and these societies are just stuck in an equilibrium because I think that what if I pay that cost and the others are not paying that cost, then I will be the only one who will be at a loss. Okay. And what if, so that's just the kind of equilibrium that we have. A very, famous story of a Latin American country. So, there was I'm forgetting whether it was Venezuela or some other country over there, or Ecuador, where people were known to be unpunctual, and the president said that, okay, from this new year midnight, we will all become punctual. Trains will start running on time, flights will start running on time, offices will start opening on time. So there was almost like a punctuality inaugural from that year. And the president reached 4 hours late to that punctuality inaugural. So the thing is that places where people are punctual, they are punctual because others are punctual. And places where people are not punctual, they are not punctual because they don't want to pay that cost of being punctual in an unpunctual society, right? And to change it, you'll have to change everybody's behavior together. Yeah.
Sir, mainly what you have said that people are punctual and that I know. But sir, many times you are punctual, but people don't seems to be punctual.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Sir, I main two criteria which I think that people why the punctuality is not from everyone. It's because of the quality of education what we get in colleges and the literacy.
Forget about those ideals. Forget about. I have seen extremely educated people being unpunctual, and extremely successful people as well being unpunctual in life. Right. So it's not about, you know, all of those moralistic standards that we are talking about over here. Okay. So now let me come a little bit. We'll just dip our feet into the shores of the game theory river, and we'll now see where it takes us. So there are three things that we need for game theory to function very well. There are three fundamental pillars or assumptions per se. One is the assumption of rationality. So assumption of rationality essentially means that human beings are rational creatures, which means that we would want to maximize our benefits and minimize our losses, maximize the benefits, minimize the costs. Okay, so that's the assumption of rationality. Now, latest research says that we operate under bounded rationality. That's what behavioral economics, etc., talks to us about. And game theory will still function. Even bounded rationality is good enough. Okay, so but here we are just using rationality. Now, the second is rationality should be common knowledge, which means that you're also expecting others to maximize their gains and minimize their losses. Okay, so you want to reduce your costs, and you want others also, you expect others to also behave in ways where they reduce their costs, they maximize their benefits. Okay, rationality as common knowledge, the formal way of saying is that I know that I am rational, so I behave rationally. I know that you are rational. I know that you know that I am rational. And I know that you know that I know that you are rational. Okay, so that's the common knowledge of rationality. We all know that we are dealing with rational people over here. And the third concept is the concept of equilibrium, something that we've been discussing right now. The formal definition of equilibrium is that set of strategies from which nobody would benefit by unilaterally deviating. Let me explain to you what I mean by saying that. I'll again repeat, that set of strategies from which nobody gains from a unilateral deviation. Okay, so let's say if you are all littering, there are two strategies, litter or not litter. Okay, now if you're all unpunctual, then there are two strategies, be punctual or not be punctual. Now, if everybody is unpunctual, then unilaterally, if I change my strategy from unpunctual to punctual, it doesn't pay me. Unilaterally, if I change my strategy from unpunctual to punctual, I don't gain anything. In fact, I pay a cost. So if I'm a rational person, I would not want to unilaterally, if everybody moves from unpunctual to punctual, I'll do it. But if I am unilaterally changing my strategy from unpunctual to punctual in a society, I will not gain anything. And that's why I will not do it. So we are all stuck in the unpunctual equilibrium where nobody gains from unilaterally changing their strategies. Okay, so that's the concept of equilibrium. That's the concept of a Nash equilibrium. If you've seen the movie A Beautiful Mind, that's what John Nash, the protagonist, has talked about in his epic paper, which is just 1 page long. I have been fortunate enough to walk those corridors at Princeton where John Nash walked. He got a Nobel Prize for this concept of the Nash equilibrium over there. Now, easy policies to implement are which side of the road to drive on. Okay, so there's a clear, good Nash equilibrium on which side of the road to drive on. And either side is fine. There are actually two Nash equilibrium, either left. If everyone is driving on the left, then I should drive on the left. That's the Nash equilibrium. If everyone is driving on the right, then I should drive on the right. That's another Nash equilibrium. In India, if everyone is driving on the left, I don't gain anything from unilaterally changing my strategy from left to right. If I start driving on the right side of the road, I will be in for an accident, right? So unilateral conversion to the other strategy doesn't pay me at all. So all that the government has to do is just declare. The government plays the role of signaling that in our country, we will drive to the left side of the road, and everyone starts driving. So the government is just creating a focal point for everyone to coordinate on, everyone to cooperate that, okay, government said left is the Nash equilibrium, we'll stick to left as being the Nash equilibrium, and we will, just be fine. In another country, right is the Nash equilibrium. You don't have to unilaterally deviate because you'll be in a loss. The way that it is formally represented is something like this. So this is called a payoff matrix. You don't have to be scared by that. I was told that, people who are studying law, they are easily scared of by numbers, but this is not something super complicated really. So you say that there is one, okay, let me get to a little bit of, take a step back, go to more basics. These are called rows. If you're using Excel, you would know this. These are called rows. These are called columns. All right, chalega? Okay. Now, you model two players. One player is this. This could be the society. You could see it as a collective of individuals, or you could just model it as one single person. Okay. So there is player one over here. There is player two over here. Or you could call this as player one. This is player two. It doesn't matter. Okay. So one player over here and one player over here. And this player plays rows. So which means that, they almost have a lever for strategy. They would either play row one or row two. Similarly, this player plays columns. Okay. So they have a lever. They either play column one or column two. Okay. Now, in this case, and they could have three as well, depending on the structure of the game. So we'll add one more column over here if they have three. They can have three as well. So in that case, we'll add one more row beneath this. Okay, but right now they're just two for each, and they are identical. Okay. So now what happens is, these are the payoffs. This is the benefit. Think of it as almost like money or utility or utils or dollars or rupees that each of these players will get based on the strategy that they're playing. So what I mean to say is that if I play left and the society also plays left, then I get a payoff of 5 and the society gets a payoff of 5. Okay. So whatever you see in blue is my payoff. Whatever you see in red is the society's payoffs. Anything to the left of the comma is my payoff. Anything to the right of the comma is the society's payoff. Okay. If the society is playing left, if everyone in this country is driving on the left and I start driving on the right, then the society and we will crash into each other. So we lose some money over there. We lose some utility over there. So I get a -1 and the society also gets damaged. So they get a -1 over here as well. Similarly, if I am playing on the right and the society is also playing on the right, we get 5-5. That's just the benefit of reaching home safely. And similarly, if the society is playing right, I'm playing left, then we get a -1 because we are in for an accident. Okay. Is this structure of the payoff matrix clear to everybody? Okay. Now, why is left and right a Nash equilibrium? Let me just, I've explained it to you intuitively. Theoretically, if I were to explain you, if I'm here, I have no incentive to move from left to right unilaterally because I don't want to move from 5 to -1. Okay, 5 is better than -1. Similarly, if the society is here, or if any individual in the society is here, they don't have any incentive to move from left to right because 5 is better than -1, right? Same logic over here. If I'm here, I don't want to move from right to left. Society is also playing right. I'm also playing right. I don't have any incentive from moving 5 to -1 because 5 is better. Society doesn't have an incentive of moving from right to left because 5 is better than -1. So you have two Nash equilibria in this particular game, right? And all that the government has to do is to tell you, is to nudge you, literally signal you that, okay, you move towards this Nash equilibria. Since this is in your logical benefit, you will automatically move there. So the structure of the game is such that there are two very good Nash equilibria. Sometimes Nash equilibria could be bad. Okay, just like in the punctuality game, just like in the littering game, where the Nash equilibrium is that if everyone is littering, you litter. There's one bad Nash equilibrium, there is one good Nash equilibrium over there. The good is if everyone is punctual, be punctual. The bad is if everyone is littering, you litter. Okay, but over here there are two good Nash equilibria. So these games need minimal enforcement. People automatically understand that, okay, if I have to drive on the left, I'll drive on the left. It's in my benefit. So these games, they need minimal enforcement. And these are the easy policies to implement on ground. Unfortunately, there are policies where, the ink on paper says that you need to move over here, but there is only one Nash equilibrium, which is a very bad Nash equilibrium. Okay. That typically happens when we are talking about things like climate change. That typically happens when we are talking about things like, many of the things like air pollution, like, a lot of contracts that you guys are going to plan. Okay. So let me give you an example of why it happens with public goods, that the Nash equilibrium is a bad Nash equilibrium over there. So anyone with a definition of public goods will talk about public goods and will play a little game after that, which will explain to you what we are trying to do. So anyone knows what a public good is? Any definition of public good? Have you come across this word, public good?
Is it something that's beneficial to the society as a whole?
Yes, that's the broad definition. So there's a public good, there's a private good. Public goods, they have two features. It's not always about things which are, just good to do with, public. If I'm distributing laptops to people, those laptops are not necessarily public goods. Public goods have two features. And this is just an interesting definition to know. There's non-excludability and non-rivalry. What I mean by that, non-excludability means you pay for it, you get it. You don't pay for it, you still get it. Think of national defense. You're paying your taxes, you get national defense. If you don't pay your taxes, you still get your national defense, right? It's not as if you haven't paid your taxes, or if you're younger than the age where you have to pay taxes, or if you're older than the age where you have to pay taxes, in the event of an aggression, the army is going to tell you, no, we are not going to protect you, sorry. Go out there in the enemy fire zone. We are not going to protect you because you haven't paid your taxes. It doesn't work like that, right? You pay for it, you get it. You don't pay for it, you still get it. Or a pole of electricity, a lamp pole outside on a dark road. You pay for it, you get it. If I am a person coming from another locality, I haven't paid for this pole, I still get it, right? It's not as if, there's an AI, a sensor in the pole, which where it'll stop giving me any light and it'll say that, no, you haven't paid for it, you won't get it. So that safety benefit is not yours. Now think of it. When the non-excludability feature applies, what will a rational person do? Rational people
Sir,
Again, think of it.
Sir,
They want to, sorry?
Sir, if any provision is not, the provision is not there to pay it, so why any person will pay?
Absolutely. No, so let's say, you know, let's think about taxes. You have the provision that you can pay taxes. Okay. But the thing is that if you don't pay taxes, then, you know, it's not as if the army is going to tell you that, nahi, aisa nahi hoga, we are not going to protect you, or that poll will stop, giving its light to you. We have to enforce tax payments. We have to get people, get the tax department after you, get the police after you, to enforce you to pay taxes. It is not a Nash equilibrium. It's not like your regular common sense and behavior that typically, just pushes you to pay taxes. There is no good strategy over there. There's no unilateral, over here, the unilateral deviation of not paying taxes is in your favor, right? We all know that in India, we all try to evade taxes, right? Because the thing is that
but sir, if you go in hotels or you go in malls, or you have to pay taxes. You have to go for it.
Sure,
So
because
you
those are
can't
private
run off.
goods. They are not public goods. A hotel or a mall, they are private goods or club goods, and we'll talk about the differences. Your questions will be answered in the next 2 slides. When you're talking about public goods, one of the feature of the public goods is non-excludability. So again, think about clean air. You're paying for it, you get it. You don't pay for it, you still get clean air if you're, in a nice place like Himachal or somewhere. Okay. So the free rider problem creeps in because of the non-excludability principle. I don't need to tell you what a free rider is. If you're working in a group project, you know that person. So the free rider problem kicks in over there. The other feature of a public good is non-rivalry. So non-rivalry is that my consumption of that good will not eat into your consumption of that good. So let's say things like sunlight. My consumption of, if I'm sitting out there and just bathing in the sun, and if somebody else comes and puts a chair beside me, then the amount of vitamin D and the amount of benefits that I am consuming from the sun does not eat into the amount of benefits that you are consuming from the sun. Right? So they are also non-rival. Any good that has these two features, that's a public good. Right? So think of that electricity pole again. If I am feeling safe in the night because of that electricity pole, because of the light that it shines on the street, that does not reduce the amount of safety that you will feel if you're also walking on the same street. Unless obviously you think that I am the person whom you need to be scared from. Okay. So you get the concept of non-rivalry. Is there anybody who doesn't understand what non-rivalry or non-excludability is, just conceptually?
Can you please explain non-rivalry? I get what about you are telling about the competition, that if you get some benefit and some other is sitting behind it, so he will also get that same benefit.
So it's not a fixed pie. It's not a fixed pie that if you eat into it, then if you consume it, then there is lesser for me to consume.
But I didn't get the concept of non-excludability. Can you please go for 2 slides behind, one more slide behind? Can you please? Okay.
So here I'm explaining non-excludability. Anything, any good for which you will get it irrespective of whether you pay for it or not.
Okay.
That is called non-excludability. So for example, again, things like clean air is a non-excludable good. That if you're in Himachal, you pay for clean air, you'll still get it. You don't pay for it, you still get it. Or national defense is a non-excludable good. You pay for it, you'll still get it. You don't pay your taxes, you'll still get national defense.
Sir, hello, sir. One slide, can you please just have to take a screenshot. Okay, okay, sir.
Okay. You guys have to join the fellowship to really get into the depths of it, because we are just touching the surface over here. Okay, so there are essentially 4 types of goods in this world. All of the goods that you see, or at least majority of the things that you see around you, can be classified into these 4 types of goods. Public goods, common resource goods, quasi-public goods, which are also called club goods, and private goods. Okay, so public goods, as I said, are the goods which are non-rival and non-excludable. Okay, there are also things called common resource goods, and we are also talking about those right now. These 2 are of our concern: common resource goods and public goods. Common resource goods are rival but non-excludable. What do I mean by that? Non-excludable again means you pay for it, you get it. You don't pay for it, you still get it. Rival means my consumption eats into your consumption. So think of things like, there is a fish pond near your locality, and let us assume that you're all dependent on eating fish from that fish pond. Okay.
Sir, you are saying of common resources, means it common resource, you have said that it is rivalry but non-excludable.
Yeah.
So it means it is rivalry means it has limited resources.
Yes. And more technically, it means that your consumption reduces my consumption, right? So an example of rivalry is that, or an example of a common resource pool is a fish pond near your locality. Now you pay for the fish pond and its maintenance, you'll get it. You don't pay for it, you still have the fish pond. Anybody can go and start fishing from a lake or a pond, right? But the fishes over there, they have a regenerative capacity. If you exploit too many of the fishes, then there'll be a population deficit. They will not be able to reproduce at the same rate as they were doing. One day, if you fish beneath a particular regenerative capacity, then you'll find fishes getting extinct over there. Okay, that's the whole concept of biodiversity as well, right? That's the whole concept of potable water. So water that you can drink, it's a common resource pool, because it's not excludable, but it's rival, because my consumption of it reduces your consumption of it. About only 3% of the total water in the world is potable, right? Now, the thing that happens, so that's the other sort of a good, where you pay for it, you get it, you don't pay for it, you still get it, but my consumption eats into your consumption. So that's common resource goods. That's the second type of goods. The third type of goods are the quasi-public goods. You can call it club goods as well, which means they are excludable, but they are non-rival. So which means that you pay for it, you get it. You don't pay for it, you don't get it. But my consumption doesn't eat into your consumption. If I were to give an example of this, one example is the toll road. You pay for it, you can drive on the road. You don't pay for it, you can't drive on the road. But assuming it's a freeway, then, if there are 10 cars, you can still drive at the speed of 100. If there are 20 cars, you can still drive on the speed of 100. So my consumption of that toll road doesn't eat into your consumption of that toll road. Or another is movie theaters. Okay, movie theaters are club goods. You pay for it, you get it. You don't pay your ticket, you won't get it. And your consumption of the movie, if you are enjoying the movie, that does not reduce the the pleasure that I can derive from that movie, right? And my consumption also doesn't eat into your consumption, unless I'm throwing popcorns at you, or unless I'm just taking calls and speaking loudly and being a bloke. But otherwise, my enjoyment from that movie doesn't reduce your enjoyment from that movie. Is that clear? So you understand the nature of club goods. right? The fourth type of goods are private goods, which are both excludable and both rival. Okay. So my consumption eats into your consumption, and you pay for it, you get it. You don't pay for it, you don't get it. Okay. So things like the laptop that I'm speaking on, if there are, 1 million laptops which are produced in a year, and if I have bought in half of it, then you only have half of it remaining for yourself, right? And with private goods, that's what happens. Since they are all rival and my consumption reduces your consumption, you have to price it. So the price goes up when the supply goes down, right? So that's the whole logic of a private good. Or, Big Macs or the burgers or the sandwiches that we eat, they're all private goods because you pay for it, you get it. You don't pay for it, you don't get it. My consumption reduces your consumption. So let me now tell you two examples or two stories, two examples actually, which will clarify this concept of these four goods. One is a fictional example. Another is a real life example. The real life one is a bit scary. The fictional example is, give me a second, please. The fictional example is that it's a quasi-fictional example. So at the San Francisco State University where I taught, and I have to tell you this, I was teaching over there, I'm not teaching there right now. So imagine the setting. The classes take place bang in the middle of the city. It's called Market Street. I come down every night from my classes end around 7 o'clock in the evening. I come down and I go to this underground metro station every time. Okay. Now, on that metro station, there is this guy who always plays the saxophone in the night. He plays amazing music on a saxophone. He's got his big, music system, the speakers attached to his saxophone kept over there on the metro station. He also has a hat kept in front of him so that you can tip him. You can, throw in $1, throw in a cent if you really like, what you're hearing over there. Okay. Now, at that point of time, when he's playing the saxophone, it is a public good. Can anyone explain me why is it a public good? That music that he's playing out there on the metro station, that's a public good. Can anybody explain why it's a public good? Take a shot. It's okay if you're wrong. Absolutely fine.
Because you get it even if you don't pay it.
Absolutely. So that's non-excludable. Why is it non-rival?
My consumption isn't eating anybody because if I'm
Sorry.
listening, the other
Perfect.
person, it's not.
Sir, it
it's
is not affecting others' one enjoyment.
Absolutely. So Siddhant had it bang on, and Ayush, you too, that it is non-excludable. So that person is not saying that if you don't pay me over here, if you don't drop in that tip, I will stop playing. Okay. So you pay for it, you get it. You don't pay for it, you still get it.
And sir, adding to your example that you have said just now, if he is connected to any private sector of that, then it comes that it is a private goods, means it is excludable.
Yeah, we'll get there. Hold on. You are jumping a few episodes in the story. Okay. So this is episode 1, where this is a public good. Okay. Now, if I'm a rational actor, what will I do? I will not pay for it and I'll still enjoy the music. Right. That's my, Nash equilibrium, that I would not pay for it and I'd still enjoy the music. Okay. And most of the people are doing that. Only a few people who are going there and dropping their $1 absolutely out of altruism, absolutely out of irrational sympathy, they are paying this person. So this person is obviously not earning a lot. And obviously, it's non-rival, as Siddhant adequately explained, that my enjoyment of that music on the metro station doesn't reduce your enjoyment of the music if you're also standing on the metro station. Now, let us say that I am a greedy conniving business person. I don't want to stereotype over here. I don't think all business people are greedy and conniving. So with that disclaimer, let us say that I am a greedy and conniving business person. So we move to episode 2. What do I have to do? I have to pluck this person out of this metro station. I'm going to tell him, you're not going to play on this metro station. I'm going to put you in the middle of an arena. I'm going to put you in the middle of a stadium. And there you can play all you want. You can, I'll put bigger speakers over there. I'll put you on a stage. You'll pay there. What I will do is that I will sit at the ticket counter over there. I will make that good from a public good to a quasi-public good, which means that it still is non-rival. It's excludable now. You pay the ticket, you get into the arena. You don't pay that ticket, you don't get into the arena. Once you're in there, then your enjoyment of the music doesn't eat into my enjoyment of the music. Okay. Episode 2 closed. This person is a little richer. I am a lot richer now. Let's say I'm still greedy. I still think that, we are not earning enough money. I want to convert this good into a private good. What do I do? Are there any other more conniving business people who might want to partner with me and who might want to suggest ways? How do I, just make a lot more money out of this person? I can obviously increase the price of the tickets, but then there's a limit to that. What do I do?
Sir, make CDs, audio cassettes.
Yeah,
Can you repeat
Siddharth,
that?
you are that conniving business partner I was looking for. So what I'll do is that this is episode 3. I plug this person out of the stadium. I put this person in a soundproof room, recording room, and I publish CDs. Let's say I publish just 500 CDs of this person's music. And I write on that CD that public distribution of it without prior permission is prohibited, which means that you cannot freely give that CD to a friend to copy it, which means that you cannot plug it on a speaker and, play it like those religious musics out there on the street. You can't do that. Okay, so that sort of a dissemination is not allowed. And what happens is that today there are 500 CDs. After 250 CDs are sold, the supply is lower and there's still demand. So I'll increase the price of the CD. So I'll earn more money out of it. All right. So I have not only made it excludable, I have also made it rival, because you pay for it, you get it. And my consumption, let's say, if we are just assuming that all of that CD listening takes place on earphones or headphones, then my consumption eats into your consumption. I buy that CD, that means one less CD for you. Okay. So that was our 3-episode business plan of converting a public good into a private good. Okay. Unfortunately, though, the real life story is that not just in music, but in clean air and in water, we are already doing it. So let me give you another situation for clean air. Clean air is typically considered as a public good. You pay for it, you get it. You don't pay for it, you still get it. My consumption of clean air doesn't eat into your consumption of clean air. But now, let us say that we are in a country where we need to burn fossil fuels, coal, natural gas, oil, to keep our economy afloat. So it is a developmental imperative for us to burn that coal, okay, if we are to industrialize. And even today, even though there is a lot of renewable, solar, etc., which is common, most of our energy dependence, this electricity on which our laptops are powered and what we are talking on, it's probably all powered on coal. It's probably all powered on natural gas. So let's say now there'll be 10 years down the line, there'll be 2 types of countries, one which were already developed, like, let's say Germany, Switzerland, etc., and one which were developing, and let's say in 10 years they do develop. But in their development in countries like, let's say, India or Brazil, etc., in our development, we burnt a lot of coal in our development. And Netherlands, Switzerland, Germany, they had that extra money to invest in clean energy. Okay. And we did not have the extra money, and we still wanted to come at par. So we developed on coal and all of these things. So let's say 10 years down the line, in 2031, you are in an India where there is just a lot of pollution in the air. And we are already seeing those in big cities. In Delhi, you see that a lot. India has probably, China, India, we have, probably one of the most polluted cities in the world. And let's say 10 years down the line, even Himachal, even the Northeast, etc., they are polluted, because those states also want to develop, and they want to develop eventually on the basis of these, fossil fuels. So let's say 2031, you have an imperative, you have a need to breathe clean air. Let's say, you have decided that, no, I don't want to breathe this shitty air that I have right now. I want to, probably move to a country where I can breathe clean air. Or maybe, I hope it doesn't happen with anyone. The doctor tells you that, no, your lungs have a problem. You need to move to a place where you can have fresh air, clean air. What do? You will have to move to either a Germany or a Switzerland. Moving there means that they are costly places to live in. It's probably gonna you're probably gonna sell some property over here just to be able to afford that sort of a lifestyle over there, right? Your savings over there would probably, over here, of 20-30 years would not be enough to put you in a nice sort of a lifestyle in some of those countries, especially if you're in Switzerland. Not happening. What's happening now is that for breathing clean air, you will have to pay. So which means that clean air suddenly becomes a club good. There's a club of countries which have clean air, and you have to pay an extra amount, not maybe to that country, but then in general, it's become excludable because you have to just afford a higher, more expensive lifestyle over there. So from a non-excludable product, it has turned into a excludable good, clean air. And now what you're seeing on the peripheries, and we take it as a joke right now, you can go on Amazon and you can find this private goods on clean air, which is essentially, you'll get, like a thermos, a bottle, a gas cylinder of sorts. And it'll say that this is clean air from Ladakh. This is clean air from the Alps. There'll be a small mask over it. You can put your face on the mask and you can literally breathe the clean air from Ladakh or breathe the clean air from the Alps over there. That sort of craziness is already happening. And you don't have to go that crazy. If you have used air purifiers in your house that suck out the, carbon from the air, you are privatizing clean air right there, because you're making it excludable. You can purchase that air purifier, then you have it. If you can't purchase it, you don't have clean air, right? We have already done that to water. Distillery, mineral water, Kinley, all of that, we've already done it to them. No, it's privatized water. I've been to households, especially in California, for some reason. They have crates and crates of bottled water kept over there. That's all they drink. They've completely privatized water. You pay for it, you get it. You don't pay for it, you don't get it. My consumption reduces your consumption. Okay. So we are almost there, guys, where most of the public goods that we see, they are privatized. Okay. And it's problematic on many levels. Okay. So the reason why that's happening is that in public goods, with the non-excludability, people's rational self drives them towards being free riders. Because if you can pay for it and get it, and if you can still not pay for it and still get it, then you would rather not pay for it and still get it. Right? And that becomes a very bad Nash equilibrium over there.
So your point is saying that public good is turning out to be a quasi-public goods.
Yes, and then quasi-public goods are turning out to be private goods increasingly. You get the trajectory I use? It's just like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3,
Okay,
that
okay.
you turn it into a quasi-public good and then you turn it into a private good. So, those gas cylinders, they are private goods because my consumption eats into your consumption. You pay for it, you get it. You don't pay for it, you don't get it. Right? Moving to Germany or Switzerland is turning air into a quasi-public good. Packaging it or putting an air purifier into your room, that's turning it into a private good. Okay. So that's the problem we are dealing with, that the Nash equilibrium over here is moving towards private goods. Yes. Okay, so go ahead, Ayush, go ahead quickly.
Sir, the right which we have to take a fresh air, which means the public good which are turning out to be a quasi-public goods, means when we have the excludable and we have the right to take a fresh air. So it's turning out to be a rivalry that we have after giving the money, after paying it, we have the it seems out that we can't get the fresh air, means it turning out to be a private good.
Yeah, it's gradually turning into a private good. And this is one thing that I want to say to all of the law students over here, because a lot of us think in terms of giving this right and that right, and thinking that if you give a right, that will be the solution. Let's say I say that I have a right to clean air in India. Does that mean that I will really have clean air? No.
Unless it is properly implemented.
Yeah, and how you properly implement it is something that we're just going to get into. Okay. But the point over here is that just giving rights is ink on paper. That I have a right to this, I have a right to that. When the equilibrium is not there, then you don't, just by saying that there's a right, you don't get the right. So because it is in everyone's benefit right now to develop and pollute. So people are all acting rationally on their individual level, and their rational self is saying that fuck it, pollute, we need to develop, right? If I don't pollute, the other person is going to pollute. It doesn't change the situation, but it drives me out of business. So, and everyone is thinking exactly that. If I don't pollute, then others will pollute, and we will anyway get there. So why should I not get there rich? Okay, so that's what's happening. So public goods have this inherent problem that they don't have a great Nash equilibrium, or the Nash equilibrium is a very bad one, which leads to more and more pollution or more and more depletion of the public good. Okay. Now, I'm not showing this video, but we'll instead play a game. Okay. I want one volunteer to play this game with me. And yeah, they will understand why, a lot of times public goods, they fall into this whole thing called a prisoner's dilemma, which is a very important basic tool, a basic concept in game theory. You might have heard about this term prisoner's dilemma, but we'll understand that concept through this little game. So can I get a volunteer to play this game with me? Who is it?
Tushar, sir.
Okay, Tushar. All right. So Tushar and I, we are going to play this game. So Tushar, here is the setting of the game. There are 5 apples in a room. So let's say we are back in our, classrooms, and the schools have opened in person, and there are 5 apples kept on a table. Okay. Now we are both standing outside of that classroom, and the game is very simple. We have to go in there and we have to divide these apples amongst ourselves. Okay, it's a very simple game. How do you propose we should do it? We are standing outside of the classroom. We are deciding how do we divide these apples. And let's say that these apples, in a way, they are the sum total of resources in the world. Okay. How do we divide these apples amongst ourselves?
Sir, the first way is that we can take one each and then keep the rest for the others.
No, let's say it's just a division between the both of us. Then we want to divide it into others. That's another matter. We are the 2 people who need to divide it amongst ourselves.
We can do it 2.5 each, like there are 5, so we do 2.5 each.
Fair enough. Such a gentleman. 2.5, 2.5 each. Okay. Now, that I would call as a cooperative strategy. Okay. There's always a non-cooperative strategy available. So there are different names for cooperative and non-cooperative strategies, and which these names are pretty cool. So I want to tell you that. So cooperative strategy is also called the dove strategy. So just like dove is a sign of peace, so cooperative strategy is also called the dove strategy. The non-cooperative strategy is also called the defect strategy, that you defect rather than cooperate. It's also called the hawk strategy, that you're playing hawk. Okay. Let's say the non-cooperative strategy is that you go in there, you start fighting over it. Okay. You want all of the 5, I want all of the 5, and you start fighting over it. Let us say that the game is such that in that fight, in that scuffle where we are punching each other, we destroy 1 apple. Okay. And the outcome is that we leave with 2 apples each after that fight. Okay. That is if we both are playing the hawk. Okay. Now let's say I start thinking that, talk is cheap. Can I really trust Tushar? What if I go inside and I'm walking in like a gentleman? I'm trying to figure out where that knife is kept in the room so that I can cut this 1 middle apple into half and we can distribute 2.5 each. And Tushar just rushes onto the table, picks up all of the 5 apples and runs. I don't want that, right? So initially we were talking about the cooperate strategy. But let's say, what if I think that I cooperate and Tushar plays defect? I don't want to be in this situation where I'm left with 0 and Tushar has all of the 5 apples, where I play cooperate or I play the dove and Tushar plays hawk. I don't want to be in that situation, right? Because I'm a rational player. I want more apples.
Sure.
Right? Is it also possible that Tushar might also think the same? That talk is cheap. We have decided and we have shook hands. And what if I enter the classroom? I am entering and walking slowly like a gentleman, trying to figure out where the knife is and trying to then cut that apple into half. While Arpit rushes in and Arpit plays the hawk. And we are in this situation where Arpit runs away with all 5 apples and I'm left with nothing. Okay. What's the safest strategy for Tushar to play? Or what's the safest strategy for me to play? Given that this thing can occur. Given that there is always a chance that, when we shook hands, we were lying.
Sir, we can give it to someone else who will not be a defect.
We give it to somebody else. Why would we do it?
To share between us, sir.
But what if that someone else runs away with all 5 of those?
That might be a possibility.
What's our best strategy over there? So let's say, let me just write it down over here quickly for your consideration. Let's say I am playing the dove strategy. Okay, I'm playing dove D. Okay, and let's say you play either dove or you play hawk. Okay, there are two possibilities, right?
Yes, sir.
If you play dove, then I will get what? 2.5.
Yes, sir.
I'm just writing my own payoff. I'm not writing yours. Okay. If you play hawk, I will get 0.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my average payoff for this is 2.5 plus 0 divided by 2.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my average payoff is 1.25 when I play this. Now let's say I play hawk and you play dove. Then how much do I get? You are playing nice. I play hawk. I get all 5 apples and run away, right?
Yes, sir.
I get 5. And let's say you play hawk and I'm also playing hawk. Then we enter into that scuffle. We destroy 1 apple and I leave with 2. You leave with 2. So in that case, if you play hawk, I play hawk, then we all end up with 2 apples each. Okay. What's the average of this?
3.5.
3.5. What is the more foolproof strategy for me, where you cannot fool me? Out of these two, out of playing dove or out of playing hawk, I don't know what you're going to play. So what's the safest strategy for me?
Both of them play dove strategy.
Sorry?
Both of them play dove strategy.
Both of them will play dove strategy, is it?
No, sir.
Is that the Nash Equilibrium?
Sir, both of them play hawk.
Yes. Who's that? Sorry, can you just tell me your name? Siddhant. Yes. Why both of them play hawk? Siddhant, can you explain to the class?
Sir, if both of them play hawk, then they'll first grab the 2-1 and the fight will be for the 1.
Yeah. So let me just break it down. Forget about what both of them will do. My best strategy will be to always play hawk. If I want to be safe in this game, my best strategy would be to always play hawk. Because if Tushar is a nice guy and he plays dove, I will get all 5. I'm good. If he is a bad guy, I will still get 2. There will be no case where I end up with 0. Make sense? So it's the more foolproof strategy for me. Irrespective of whether Siddhant is whether Tushar is a nice guy or a bad guy, I still don't end up with nothing if I'm playing hawk. Right? And if I play dove, then there's a chance my best case scenario is 2.5, my worst case scenario is 0. Over here, my best case scenario is 5, my worst case scenario is 2. In terms of average payoffs, in a dove strategy, my average payoff is 1.25. In my hawk strategy, my average payoff is 3.5. So it makes more sense for me to play hawk, isn't it? Now, Tushar is also a rational person. So the same holds true for Tushar. That for Tushar, the best strategy, irrespective of who I am, whether I'm a nice guy or I'm not a nice guy, Tushar's most foolproof strategy is also to play hawk, isn't it? So we are in a prisoner's dilemma. Prisoner's dilemma is that Nash equilibrium where the best strategy for all the players is the strategy where you get a lower than optimal, lower than ideal payoff. So the ideal payoff is 2.5, but you get a lower than ideal payoff, which is 2. And you still go for it because that's just the rational thing to do. Okay. So we'll both play defect and defect. We'll destroy 1 apple. in the fight will end up with 2-2. That's the most rational strategy for both of us. So if I show it to you on a payoff matrix, it looks something like this, where we both get 2-2 each. Now, let me show you why this is a Nash equilibrium, why cooperate 2.5 is not a Nash equilibrium. So a good way of showing that cooperate is, and one thing that I need to tell you, whenever you talk about Nash equilibrium, you talk in terms of strategy pairs, not payoff pairs. See, I'm not saying 2.5 is a Nash equilibrium. I'm saying cooperate is a Nash equilibrium. Okay. Now, why is cooperate not a Nash equilibrium? The reason is that if I'm here, let's say the way to check it always is assume you're there and see whether this is a stable equilibrium. Assume we are there, and this is me, Arpit. This is Tushar. All right. Now, as Arpit, if we are both on cooperate, I would want to move from 2.5 to 5, right? I would want to move from cooperate to defect. Okay. Similarly, Tushar would want to move from cooperate to defect because 5 is better than 2.5. So we both have an incentive to unilaterally change our strategy, where the other person is playing cooperate, I play defect. That's a brilliant strategy for me because I get more. So this will not be a stable condition. This would be a very wobbly condition. This equilibrium is shaking. This is not, even an equilibrium. It will not last. Okay. But on the other hand, compare the defect equilibrium, the hawk strategy. If you're there, if you're over here on defect, then would I unilaterally want to move from defect to cooperate and move from 2 to 0? No. Would you want to move unilaterally from defect to cooperate from 2 to 0? No. Right? So this is a Nash equilibrium. This is a stable equilibrium, but it is a suboptimal equilibrium. You could have ended up in 2.5, but you ended up with 2.2 because this is a prisoner's dilemma game that you're in. Right? Does everybody understand it until here? Any questions, any doubts until here? Does anybody, do you appreciate the paradoxical, perverse beauty of this prisoner's dilemma that, you could have, the nice thing to do was to play a little irrational, to play cooperate, but we cannot do that. And that typically also happens in conflicting nations. Can India trust Pakistan? Can Pakistan trust India? No, we always fall into this prisoner's dilemma. Israel, Palestine, we always fall into this prisoner's dilemma, don't we? Now, how do you break out of this prisoner's dilemma is the question. There are about 4 strategies for it. We'll probably be able to discuss 2 today. You'll have to probably join my course at the fellowship if we were to discuss all of the strategies, but let's discuss 2 of them. Strategies to escape the prisoner's dilemma. So let's say again, Tushar and I, we are there in that class, and one strategy is that we put a police person outside of that classroom. And let's say this police person is just not a regular police person, it's a robot that we've put outside of the classroom. All right. And we have instructed this police person robot, let's call this person Robocop, and this Robocop will punish us if, let's say this is the place where I played hawk and Tushar played dove. Okay. So if we are here where I played hawk and Tushar played dove, And if this person, the Robocop, sees me coming out with 5 apples, Robocop automatically identifies that Arpit played hawk. That means Arpit broke the law, broke the rule. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a penalty of 4. So I'm going to take away 4 apples from Arpit. Okay. And that would be a penalty for playing hawk. So instead of 5 apples, Arpit will be left with just 1 apple. Okay. Same goes for Tushar, that if Tushar played hawk and I'm playing dove, Robocop sees that Tushar is coming out with 5 apples and I'm coming out with just 1. Then what's going to happen over here? The Robocop is going to take away 4 apples from Tushar and Tushar will just be left with 1 apple. Okay. So in a way, that is equivalent to saying that if you play unilaterally, if you play hawk, then instead of the 2.5 apples that you could have come out with had you played dove, you will only be left with 1 apple. Right? So there, by just doing that, I have turned this into a Nash equilibrium as well. Because if we are here now, then 2.5 is better than 1 for me, and 2.5 is better than 1 for Tushar. So this also becomes a Nash equilibrium over here. Cooperate is also a Nash equilibrium now. Do you all see that? Anybody who can't? Okay, but please do notice that defect is still a Nash equilibrium. There's a good Nash equilibrium now, there's a bad Nash equilibrium, because still 2 is better than 0. If you're here, now it depends on your starting point. If you're here, then 2 is better than 0, so you'll keep defecting. If you're here, then 2 is better than 0, you're still defecting. Okay. But let's say that I stick to this rule that whoever plays hawk, I will punish him with 4 units. It could be 4 apples, or it could be if you're over here and you're both coming out with 2 apples, then Robocop will say that you both played hawk, which is against the law. So I have to give you a punishment which is worth 4 units. So I'm going to first take those 2 apples from each of you, and then I'm going to put you guys in a jail for 2 days as well as an additional punishment. Okay. So in that case, this turns into
Sir, hawk strategies are a good strategies for a safe strategy. But if you have a very limited resources and so hawk strategies makes the resources very less. I think
yes,
so.
And that's what
Unlimited
even if you have a lot of resources.
No, on limited strategy, it doesn't work, which I am experiencing.
No, you're probably right over there that with limited resources, you start seeing more cooperation. But you also have this concept in economics, especially called resource curse, that why countries in, let's say if you look at Venezuela, which is extremely rich in oil, probably richer than many of the Gulf countries, why do you see a lot of turbulence, a lot of political strife, a lot of violence in those countries? Is because they are in a place called resource curse, which is that the more resources that you will have as a country, the more infighting, the more destruction will you see, the more poverty will you see in your country. And the reason is that when you don't have institutions, when you don't have the Robocop sitting outside, then it's easy to get into that defect equilibrium and destroy your resources. So first there'll be tribes who will be fighting on those resources. There'll be internal factions. Then there'll be foreign players who will just jump into that. A lot of Indian colonialism, we used to call India Sone ki Chidiya, right? The golden bird. And you had these small factions which are fighting and always playing defect. And then the foreigners also got in, and then they were also playing defect until they became the Robocop. Right? So, yeah.
Sir, I think so. Both strategies have their own equal amount of where we can apply. But
Yeah.
sir, according to me, sir, it is always affecting on the resources. Both the DORP and the hawk strategies, where you are saying hawk strategies, you are saying you have played the role of a defect and you are some resources are getting destroyed. So what will be that value of that resource? The value of resources means if 5 apples are there and some of the apples are getting affected.
Yeah.
So I think the best rule is that it should be distributed equally and without the resources getting affected. So there must be an authorized person whom both of them can believe on that particular person where who can get it distribute equally that resource.
How will there be an authorized person like that? Why would that authorized person not take away all of the resources for himself or herself? Please tell me that. Because everybody that we are dealing with at some level is a rational individual, right? So we'll come to that, but let's say for this point of time, one of the strategy to escape this is rewards and punishments. So let's say we carrot and sticks, and let's say we put a stick that, okay, if you both are, if one of you is playing the hawk game, I will take 4 apples from you. If both of you are playing hawk game, then I would take your 2 apples each. I will also put you in a jail. So which makes this as -2, -2. Now, when this becomes -2, -2, the only Nash equilibrium over here is this: cooperate, cooperate. Right? So this is the basic way of dealing with a prisoner's dilemma, but there are more ways of dealing with prisoner's dilemma. Another way is have infinite stages in the game or break that game down. Okay. And what do I mean by that? Theoretically, infinite stages they work, and breaking that game down into many stages doesn't work. Practically, breaking the game down into many stages also works. So let me first show you theoretically why breaking the game down into many stages does not work. So let's say Tushar and I, we are going to play this game 4 times over. Okay, so every day for 4 days we will come and we will play the same game. So now, being the rational people that we are, Tushar will think that on the last day, Arpit will try to maximize. So on the last day, Arpit is definitely going to play hawk, going to play defect. So in my response, on the last day, I will also play defect. Okay, so on the last day, this fate is sealed, because after that, we are not going to see each other again at sayonara. So last day, we don't need to be nice with each other. So last day, we will play hawk only. Okay. Second last day is where Tushar would think I can maximize. If we have been playing nice all the time, then second last day I will play not nice, because last day I know that Arpit will not play nice at all. So second last day, Tushar will say that, okay, I will defect and Arpit will probably still be cooperating like a foolish person, and I will maximize over here in this whole game. But Arpit also knows that Tushar knows that Arpit will defect in the last stage, so Tushar will defect in the second last stage. So Arpit will also defect, so you'll end over here, right? And then Tushar also knows that Arpit knows that, Arpit will defect in the last stage, so Tushar will defect in the second last stage. So Arpit will defect in the second last stage. So Tushar's best strategy is to defect in the third last stage. So Arpit's best strategy is to defect in the third last stage. So even here, we will both defect. And similarly, by backward induction, we will keep defecting, and this will still remain the Nash equilibrium. Okay, so the problem is not solved yet. What do we do instead? If, let's say, having a last stage is not an option, we have to be there with each other until infinity. Now, if we are there with each other until infinity, then one sort of a game could be that one day somebody cooperates and the other person defects. So let's say one day Tushar defects and I cooperate. So one day I'm fooled. Tushar has, 5 extra than I have. But in the long run, we will always play defect until infinity. And that extra $5 that Tushar earned, in the long period of time, they don't remain meaningful at all, right? So in the long period of time, it is in everybody's interest to play the cooperate game, and that can still turn out to be a Nash equilibrium, because you can't do a backward induction from that. You can't have a last stage from which you would think that, okay, last stage I can maximize, and then after that I will, in the initial stages, we'll all cooperate. Last stage I will just flip and I'll pick up the $5. There's no last stage over here. So when you are playing an infinite game, you can still have cooperation, and that turns out that it plays out in international relations very well. So for example, England and France were the worst of enemies for a long period of time. You had British monarchs saying that I'm the king of Great Britain and France. You had the French monarchs saying that I'm the king of France and England. They had disputed territories. But comes the World War I, World War II, and ever after, industrial age and onwards, they are the best of friends. They are fighting all wars together. They are cooperating very closely, etc., etc. So how do these centuries of animosity turn into cooperation? Because they realize that they will not be able to completely destroy each other. There is no scope for complete annihilation. And when you have this sort of a mindset that whatever we do, we will not be able to completely destroy each other, you understand that you're in an infinite game. And there you can expect cooperation. Now, when you think about conflicts such as India-Pakistan, at some subconscious level, both the countries think that they could destroy the other entity completely, right? So we are still not in an infinite game. But countries have to move to an infinite game and thereby cooperation. Similarly, Israel-Palestine, they think that they can destroy the other entity altogether. So you see a lot of non-cooperation over there. Now, in reality, however, just breaking things down into stages also works out practically. So let me give you a security example, then I'll give you a public policy or a sustainability example, then we'll call it a day. So security example is that, let's say there is this disputed region. In that region, there is a line of control. Okay. You know what I'm referring to. So there are armies over here on this side of the line of control. There are armies over here on this side of the line of control. Now, how do de-escalations take place eventually? The way that de-escalations take place is not in an abrupt manner that, you completely withdraw your armies. They are always phased out. Okay, it's also called a detent, D-E-T-E-N-T-E. Okay, so the way that you do it is that you ask both the armies to withdraw 1 kilometer each. Okay, or 1 kilometer could be 3 kilometers or whatever, just withdraw a little. Now, when you've withdrawn a little, you're giving a chance to the other army. You're kind of testing it out that if this army wants to cheat, then they would want to rush in and occupy more of the land beyond the LOC, right? They would want to just rush in. But since we both have retreated only 1 kilometer, I can, if I see them, coming, rushing back in, and in the effort of occupying more land, I can also rush back in and we can re-establish the status quo. Okay. But let's say they retreated and this army did not rush back in, and I also did not rush back in. That means that we have some bit of trust over there established, even though, temporarily we have some bit of trust which is established. So then we can talk about withdrawing, let's say 3 kilometers each this time. And let's say we have withdrawn 3 kilometers each. again, the same thing, that if this army wants to cheat, then they would try to rush back and probably want to push beyond the LOC. But that also gives us sufficient time to rush back in and establish the status quo over here. Okay. But let's say they don't do it. They still don't rush back in, and they see that we are not rushing back in. That means that, and their communications and miscommunications are of great importance. They can, make or break the game. If there's a miscommunication that the other person is rushing back in, I will rush back in. Seeing me rushing back in, the other person will rush back in. Okay. So clear communication is key. So now you see that 3 kilometers, everyone is retreated. Now you have some more established trust, and now you can retreat completely from that area. Okay. So this is how, you divide it in security circles, and you, get to de-escalation. You never do it in a shot. Similarly, let's say on a sustainability issue, there is a river. Okay. And there are 3 factories over here along the river. And there is a government order which says that you will not put untreated chemical waste inside the river. Okay. You will not do that. It's unlawful. And let's say that the equipment that you need to install for the treatment, or the waste treatment, chemical treatment plant, it costs you about 1 crore rupees. Okay. So it is mandated that everybody will have to, if you have a factory, you'll have to establish a 1 crore rupee worth water treatment plant, or waste treatment plant, chemical treatment plant. Now, if I am the owner of factory 1, what is going on in my mind? What is going on in my mind is that what if I am the only person who has established this waste treatment plant? I incur this expenditure of 1 crore, which is eaten into my profit. So either I will take a hit on my profit, or I will make my product more expensive. Okay. To accommodate that expenditure of 1 crore. What if I am the only person who's spending that 1 crore and the other 2, they don't? That means I will earn lesser profit, or my products will be more expensive in the market, and I will be driven out of the market because I'm uncompetitive now. Okay. And the river will still remain unclean because the other 2 are not doing it. They're just flouting the law. Right. I will not set this plant up. The second person is also thinking the same, that what if I set it up, I get lower profits, the other don't set it up, they are still polluting, they get higher profits, I get uncompetitive in the market, I will be driven out, the river still remains unclean. And the third person is thinking exactly the same. So nothing happens. But what if we were to split it in various stages? So the first stage is that you only have to show, there will be an inspector who will come in, and you only have to show that you have left out some space. So some minimal commitment, in international agreements, like you first get commitments from various countries, right? So first is just a commitment that, okay, you have left out some space for a treatment plant to be set up. Yes, no real expenditure over here. Inspector comes in and ticks that, okay, A has left out space, B has left out space, C has left out space, brings all 3 of them into a conference room, says that all 3 of you have left out space. So congratulations, you have crossed stage 1. Okay. Stage 2 is that you have to incur, let's say, 10 lakh of expenditures to get the pipelines in for the treatment plant. So you put all of the pipelines in. Now, I know that the other 2 people have shown some commitment that they have left out some space. So they are also likely to set up a pipeline as well. And it's a 10 lakh expenditure. So I'll probably do it. So I set up my pipeline, B sets up their pipeline, C sets up their pipeline. Inspector comes, does a tick, tick, tick. Yes, you all 3 have set up your pipeline, puts us into a conference room so that the information is shared. I know that B has indeed set up the pipeline. B knows that I have set up the pipeline. C knows we both have set up the pipeline. We know C has set up the pipeline. Stage 2 complete. So now I know that B and C are kind of serious on getting onto this. So even if I go for it, I will not be in a unique disadvantage. So third step is that you actually have to incur the rest of the expenditure and set up the plant. So I am now more likely to set up the plant because I know that the others are also going to follow suit. So I will not be at a unique disadvantage. So I will set up the plant. B also thinks that B will not be at a unique disadvantage. B will set up the plant. C also knows that they'll not be at a unique disadvantage. So C will also set up the plant. And thereby, by breaking it down into stages, you will be able to achieve some cooperation over there. Okay, that's where we'll end today. Just for your knowledge, I'll tell you that the third strategy is to create institutions that bridge information asymmetry and put down some rules. And the fourth strategy is to make cooperation really, really lucrative. Okay, so that will probably keep for later, or if you do happen to join the GPODS fellowship, I'll just, our applications are open. I'll write down, yeah, I think you all have all of the details in the chat box already. This is the website. I'll just write down if you want to check it out. But here, I am willing to take questions or closing comments or your thoughts on if you thought this was helpful. If you have any further questions, I'm more than happy to clarify.
Do participants have any questions, Arpit? They could put it in the chat or unmute.
Or just unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Or as long as you got these two strategies and you understood the logic behind it, I think you'll be fine. Also think about other examples. Just say, airlines may be similar game theoretical stuff is going, that airlines you'll find, and there have been studies which have found out that all of the airline companies, they will first collude and they would be like, okay, let us keep the prices up. So you'll see the prices of all airlines going up. Okay, so all of them are cooperating on the game. But then one will start thinking that, okay, what if I defect? I will get a little more profit. I'll get more customers. So they will lower the price a little. Now these guys think that, okay, this person has lowered the price, I need to lower the price a little more. And then this person does that, and all prices, they start falling down for the airlines. And then they start thinking that, oh, we have destroyed each other as an industry. What do we do? Now they start colluding again and the prices keep going up. So in the airlines industry, there is no Nash equilibrium really. So they keep wobbling between cooperation and defect, cooperation and defect. So as long as you get this real logic, I think as lawyers, you need to understand that very well, that contracts jo hote hain, that is also based on this, that if you defect from the contract, then you have the government who will punish you. So that's the Apple wala game, the initial game that we were playing, that if you defect from the contract, then we'll put a penalty on you. So that's just creating one Nash equilibrium, which is a good Nash equilibrium. Okay, so as long as you can start thinking in those terms, I think we've done our job.
So then everyone will follow DOR strategy because there is a restriction that you will be punished for that, or then nobody will, or anyone who is taking a precaution that he is following Hawk strategy. So if someone will be punished, so everyone will follow with DOR strategy, and one will get the resources according to their talents and
then that becomes the only sensible strategy. That becomes the Nash equilibrium. However, there are other questions such as what happens to corruption? What happens that when the RoboCop is not a RoboCop, it's a human cop, and you can probably tip the human cop with some money? Then that's another game that has started. Then both of you start tipping that person, and eventually that person is the richest person. Right? So what happens then? And there is a lot of game theoretical discussion around that as well. But this is it for now. If you have been able to wrap your heads around this, initial stuff, then with time, you'll start exploring this and you'll start understanding stuff. So, all right, just to summarize, ink on paper laws, they don't work. You give rights and just for the heck of it, they won't work. You will have to make better equilibrium and better conditions to make certain things work. Otherwise, many policies, they are just in ink on paper if they are not nudging you towards a good equilibrium. So that's it from my side, guys. Feel free to add me up on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to know more about the fellowship, or if you're planning to study abroad at some point of time, especially if you want to study a master's in public policy or a master's of public administration program. It's one of my favorite things to do, to advise people on that. So I'm more than happy to have a chat with you. And I'm annoyingly approachable on LinkedIn or on my email. I can also write my email address down over here for you to note. It's arpit@globalpolicyinsights.org. And see you. Pleasure interacting with you. Take care. Have a nice Sunday.
Thank you so much, Arpit, for breaking down such complex and novel subjects for us, in which I think a lot of people in the comments have also said it was enlightening and very insightful. As Arpit has said, guys, y'all can reach out to participants. Sorry, y'all can reach out to him as and when y'all please, and he's extremely approachable. I'd like to thank you for this extremely enlightening session today, and EnviPol for collaborating with us on this workshop. And we look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much, Tushar, and the whole of the SPIL team. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.